What's up guys, Curtis here from Matador Darts. Today I'm bringing you a brand new video and a review on the Unicorn Eclipse Ultra 2.0 dartboard. If you missed my previous video on the Unicorn Eclipse Ultra 2.0, I'll leave a link in the description and probably a video card if I remember to do it. It's me unboxing the board and just giving my first initial impressions. This is a bit more of a comprehensive review after about probably 6 to 8 hours use, maybe probably more than that actually. So yeah, just detailing some of the things that I've noticed about the dartboard. So the first thing I want to start with is the impressions of the board when you buy it. So if you go onto a website such as Darts Corner, you will see the Unicorn Eclipse Ultra dartboard listed for £70 or £69.95. Call it £70 for the sake of this video. Plus postage, you're probably paying 75 quid. So it's on the upper ends of the market. It's going to compare to a Blade 6 and a Tour board in terms of like the price point. So they really have to compete with those boards. The Blade 6 triple core is pretty much considered, you know, the board. It's obviously used in the PDC. The Target Tour board has also been very, very popular. The board itself, looking at the images, look really striking, and I actually mentioned this when it came out of the box. The black wires, the inking is really bright and vivid. Unicorn logo around the outside in orange, again, really bright and vivid. The inking doesn't really spill over the segments, which you sometimes get with some cheaper boards. It's a really premium looking board. The numbers around the board aren't twisted, they're all the right way around. I'll come on to that in a little bit. But yeah, the numbers, different sort of numbering, so they all face the right way. In terms of throwing at the board, the first thing you'll notice when you throw at a board for the first time is whether it's hard, whether it's soft, how the sisal heals. For me personally, my board, very, very soft. You can throw the darts in the board and it sounds very quiet, and the points embed quite deep into the board. I was using, when I first got the board, some Caliburn Evo points in 35mm, I think it was, or something similar, so they're about a 38mm point, with some ring grips on it. I'll talk about the size of the ring grip in a minute. But these points were basically going almost down to the dart. So it's a very soft board, but the sisal is actually compacted quite densely. What I've noticed is it heals really well. So this is the Target Tour board, as you can see. Probably use this segment here for a similar amount of time as I did on the Unicorn Eclipse. The main thing with the Target Tour board, because it's harder, is the holes don't heal up as well, so you can see them more clearly, especially in the white segments. But the good thing is it heals really well, and not really many other fibres have come out. That's the real difference between this and the Unicorn Eclipse. But because of the soft sisal, you will get some fibres pull out if you use grippy points like the ring grip points I was using. As you can see on my board, there's fibres sticking out. That is because I used the ring grip points. I have switched to different points since, and the board's been really good at healing since then. The other thing with those densely packed sisal fibres is that even though the board's really soft, it doesn't mean the points are going to go straight through the board and bounce back out. I think a problem Unicorn had in the past when they had softer boards was darts would go in the board, but because they were so soft, they would enter the board and drop, which is why people started using really rough points, or they would actually go all the way through the board, hit the chipboard at the back, bounce back out. So they've actually sort of worked out a way to get a softer board, but without the effectiveness of the points either bouncing out or dropping and sitting at different angles to what you would expect. The darts hit the board and they don't drop, they sit in the angle that they enter the board, which is absolutely perfect for everyone. It doesn't mean they have to mess about their setup specifically because they're using this board. The printing and the inking is really good. Obviously this board follows the Target Tour sort of model where they've gone with a symmetrical printing around the outside so that it's less distracting. For me personally, the Unicorn logo in orange is actually a little bit bright, and I don't really take much notice of printing around the outside of the board anyway. I know a lot of people are actually getting onto it now where they're talking about how much the outside of a board affects their focus. I don't really think it's something to really worry about. People have played darts for years with dartboards that aren't symmetrical. But it's a nice feature. The Unicorn logo in orange maybe could have been dulled down a little bit just to make it a bit more easy to focus without the printing, if that's something that's, you know, you're looking for. But for me personally, again, not really something I look into when I'm buying a dartboard. The bullseye wire is nice and central. There's been some issues with the Target Tour dartboards where the bullseyes are slightly off. I actually personally own a Target Tour dartboard and it wasn't an issue for me. Also nice and thin. Something in the past about old Unicorn boards was that bullseye wires stuck out quite a lot. So if you had a dart, say my hand here is the wire, so you had a dart come in and hit the bottom of the wire, it would just hit the wire and slow it right down, wouldn't even go in the board, it would just fall out. The bullseye wire on this dartboard is really thin, so no issues with bounce outs at all for me on the bullseye on this board. Talking of wires, the black wiring system, the Venom wires, Something I was worried about when I first got the board, and something that I'm going to criticise. I'm going to go out there and say it. I think it was a really bad idea from Unicorn. You just knew it was going to chip away before I even got the board, before I even actually was offered to review the board. I knew that wires would chip away. It's not been as bad as I thought it would be, but I think, you know, someone who's actually better at hitting the treble 20 than me, those wires will chip away so quickly. They're not overly noticeable from the Oki, to be honest, but with more use I think they will be. When I first got the board, it is actually a bit off-putting when you look at sort of like the white segments, because the black wires obviously clash with that quite a lot. So yeah, the black wiring I'm really not a fan of. Chips away. It probably brings more negatives than positives in my opinion. In terms of its wear, obviously I've mentioned before about the fibres being pulled out when using ring grip points, but I've been using this board for 6 to 8 hours on the same segment, basically just throwing at treble 20s most of the time. Wear-wise, I think it holds up with the other boards on the market. I've had a Blade 6 triple core, I think it's held up better than that did. I've got a Target Tour board. I don't think it's held up as well as the Tour board. I think mainly because I was using those ringed points on the Tour board and it wasn't pulling out fibres, and I think that's what's probably the main difference, is because of how much harder the Target Tour board is compared to the Eclipse. Points weren't going in as deep, rings weren't going into the segment, which means it wasn't pulling out fibres. But if you're looking for a good wearing, soft dartboard, the Unicorn Eclipse Ultra 2.0 is very good. The other features, such as the number ring, where all of the numbers face the right way, not really something that's necessary, but something that's actually a pretty good idea for new players. Just makes it ever so slightly quicker to be able to read the numbers. The only problem is with this is if you use a Scolia system, doesn't work with that. I put this up on my Scolia with this number ring, didn't recognise any darts, had to put the old original Eclipse Ultra number ring on there. So yeah, be prepared to swap out number rings if you get this dartboard and own a Scolia. I believe it works normally on the Omni, because the Omni doesn't need a number ring to be able to work, but it's a nice little feature. Not really something that's necessary, but something that's not brought any negatives either. In terms of in the box, you get a standard fixing kit, so your little bracket and some screws to go on the back of the dartboard. You also now get sent the Unicorn Unilock system, which is similar to the Rotolock system and the system whatever Target have that screws on. The only difference with this is you have to screw it onto the edge of the dartboard, and then this then pushes onto the wall. It would have been nice to have something that, you know, screws into the actual back of the board, but I understand Unicorn already have this product out and have done for a number of years. So, you know, including this in the box isn't really the worst thing in the world. And that is pretty much it for this review. In summary, I think it's actually a very good dartboard. I think for the price, solid in terms of, you know, modern dartboards, easily, you know, compares with the Target Tour and the Winmore Blade 6. I think the main issue is those black wires. Just chipping away, but if that's not something you really care about, then, you know, the Unicorn board is a good option. If I was to recommend it to someone, if they said, is this a good board, I want to buy it, I would say yes. I wouldn't, you know, negatively say no. But also, if someone wanted to buy the Target Tour board compared to this, I wouldn't say either or is better. I think they actually compare quite well. This is actually probably the better soft board on the market. I know the Blade 6 triple core used to be quite soft, but I think recent production changes means they've got a bit more solid. So in terms of a soft dartboard, I think this is really good. If you want something a bit harder, the Target Tour is the better option. And that's it for this video, guys. Thank you to Unicorn for sending me this dartboard to review. I hope this has been informative for you. Something probably a little bit more boring, just because purely it's a review. I've shown you some close-ups of the dartboard and some other clips and stuff. But yeah, hopefully this has been informative. And if you want to see more reviews in the future, don't forget to let me know in the comments. Thank you once again to Unicorn for sending me this dartboard to review. It's very much appreciated. As of now, guys, thank you for watching. If you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like down below. It helps push this video to more people that aren't subscribed to my channel, and also leave a comment to let me know what you want to see next. As of now, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.